Good evening. Sorry you couldn't make it this morning. I am in an exhibition in Istanbul in Turkey, but we do it this evening, our weekly short shiur in English. We are in parashat Bo. Parashat Bo. Kodesh Baruch Hu tells Moses, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Bo el Paro, come to Pharaoh. And here we have to understand something very, very important in life. We are never, ever alone. The Kodesh Baruch Hu, our Father in heaven, is always with us. And to understand what we're talking about is, one of the crucial points in Yetziat Mitzrayim is that it's very hard to understand how is it possible that only 20% got out of Egypt after seeing all the 10 plagues, that all the idea of the 10 plagues, as we already talked about it in the past hundreds of times. The only plague that took Am Yisrael out of Egypt was Makat Bechorot. That's the only plague. All the other plagues, they have got nothing to do with taking out Am Yisrael from Mitzrayim. So what? What's going on here? We also know that after 5 plagues, Pharaoh wanted to send Am Yisrael, but Kodesh Baruch Hu hardened his heart and he didn't send them. And here we have to understand a few important points. What does it mean he hardened his heart? It means that he didn't take his heart. He didn't take his, let's say, his power of decision. He made it hard for him. But still, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says he had something to think. What's going on here? You know, you're getting one plague after another, another one. Okay, he's not stupid. He's the head of the most sophisticated society in the ancient time. Till now, scientists investigating the knowledge that the Chartumim of Mitzrayim knew. So, was he stupid? Not. Okay. So God made it hard for him and made him he didn't force him. He just made it the decision hard. He didn't take his heart. So what did he think? Of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's going on here? And then we see in our parashat that his slaves come to him, the slaves, the servants, whoever, says, you don't see that Egypt is going to collapse, Egypt is going to finish, this God he's got all the power in the world. So then he says, you know what? Okay, call them back. So they call them back to Moses and Aaron, and he then asks him, who is going? So he's telling them, everybody is going. 1 minute, if everybody is going, it means that it's no good. Okay. And he didn't let them go eventually. So what was this all about? You see, Pharaoh thinks to himself, if God the Almighty wants to take his people out of Egypt for 3 days to worship him, it doesn't sound reasonable. If he is the God of them and they are slaves, and he wants to take them out, it means he wants to take them out to release them, to take them out forever. And this is he thinks it's a fight between me, my wisdom, my sorcerers, and my power against the power of God. So he is willing to suffer, but thinking that he can win this battle. And after he realizes that something here is wrong, so his servants come to him and says, maybe the real thing is that he wants to take them only for 3 days to worship him, and then they gotta come back. So he is testing Am Yisrael. He's testing Moses and Aaron. He says, who is going? Now he says, all the children, the women, the cattle, everything. So maybe I'm right. Because if you really want to go and worship God, only the men go. They are the priests. They are those who have to sacrifice the sacrifices to God, not the women, not the children. So if you want to take all of them out, it means that you are not going to come back, and really God is, limited with his power, and that's why he's playing this game, and he's saying 3 days, but he really wants to take them out, but he hasn't got enough power to take out Am Yisrael out of Egypt from this. Maybe they had special, they say the sorcerers put a special spell on in Egypt that nobody could get out of there. So that's what he thinks. But then his servants come and tell him, hey, look, he's got the power, so maybe that's what he wants. So he's doing the test. And again, that's what he was thinking. Of course, God is involved. God made him let's say, helped him a lot to get this wrong decision. And still we ask, so okay, why 10? Maybe 6, 7, 8? But all those 10 plagues are against the 10 commandments, against the 10 Ma'amarot. The 10 says that God created the world. And each one of the plagues has got something else to teach us about God. That there is a God, there is nothing but God, and God looks after everybody here, Ashgacha Pratit. And really, all those 10 plagues were not exactly for Pharaoh and his people, they are more for Am Yisrael. Because the big problem was not taking out Am Yisrael of Egypt, but taking Egypt out of Am Yisrael. They were so involved in worshipping idols that they couldn't listen to anything else. And for us, it sounds a little ridiculous. Really, you saw so unbelievable miracles. Impossible that you didn't see that there is a God, and God is the one and the only one. But if we think about it in perspective of today, to understand what is the Torah really trying to tell us, because the Torah is not let's say stories. It's much, much, much more than it. So the real thing is that today we are also idol worshippers. Our idols today are the money, the gold, the silver, the lust, and all the other things that we all know. And we are so deep in it that even if we know there is a God, we are still going on and do what we want. And we can see this everywhere. For example, like the doctor that tells the patient that he's smoking, it's going to lead you to death, and he shows him this black lung in a picture or Röntgen picture, and then this guy is like really desperate and sad. What's going to be? And who is he seeing in the smoker's corner? The same doctor that 2 minutes ago told him the cigarettes kill. And it's not only this. People that are diabetic, they're not allowed to eat certain things. But he sees this cake, he wants to eat it. It's not good for you. He's still eating it. So it's happening all the time. So it's not just a story. So the point is, what do we do? How do we fight it? And it gets to a very interesting point that when is God doing like this end to all those who didn't want to go out of Egypt? In the darkness plague. And why in the darkness plague? It's written, Vayamesh Choshech. At a certain point, the darkness was something that you could feel, touch. What does it mean? So there are a lot of explanation, but one of the explanation is, Vayamesh Choshech, they took the darkness and made and thought that the darkness is the real life. It's like that one of the explanation of the darkness plague is that it wasn't really darkness, it was a big light, the light from the creation. And the light, it was so pure that the Egyptian couldn't see anything. It was, how do you say, Les Sanver, how do you say Les Sanver? How do you say Les Sanver? It's like when, imagine to yourself, you're going at a dark night on the desert road, Arava road, to Eilat. And suddenly comes a big truck, a big lorry in front of you, and turns on the high lights. Can you see anything? Nothing. Instead of big light, you see darkness. And the same thing was, if you remember, when Lot took the angels in, and all the people of Sodom came and they wanted to take them out and do whatever they wanted with them. And Lot didn't agree. Eventually the angels came out and gave them a Makat Sanverim. What was Makat Sanverim? Big light that made them see nothing. But they still, they still wanted to get to the door. Which again showing us that if you're going in a certain way, sometimes you're so deep in the evil, and Yetzer Hara, the bad inclination, is getting you so hard that it doesn't matter what happens, you're still going on in the darkness, you're still going on to be doomed, to be... It's unbelievable. And that's exactly what God did. He brought this light from up there, and the light was too much. And for the Egyptian, it was dark. But for the Jews, it was light. Maybe for those 20% who got out of Egypt. But the other 80, maybe for them it was also darkness, because they also were impure, they were deeply involved in idol worshipping. And because of this is the plague that God killed those who didn't believe, or didn't want to believe, or didn't do tshuva, and he didn't want the Egyptian to see it, and also the symbol of the darkness. They made the darkness, which of the impurity of evil, to a real thing, a live thing. And the real truth is, this is one of our problems, that we are really not understanding sometimes that all this shiny, glittering life, modern life, is not light. It's dark. The only light is the light of the Torah. And we have to go in the light of the Torah, the only light that exists, the only light that we can move with. But sometimes it's very hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to go and see the right way to go. And this is when we have to remember what God is telling us. Bo el paro. Doesn't matter where we are and in what situation we are. God is with us. God helps us. We just have to make the first step. And here it doesn't matter if we are in the darkness, if we are in the deepest impurity, in the deepest, lowest place in the world, as it was in the dream of Yaakov. With Yaakov it was Asulam Utzav outside, the ladder is put on earth and going up to heaven. Says Onkelos Nautz Be'ara. The ladder was deep in the ground, stuck in the ground. What does it mean, the ground? What is the Adamah? That is the earthly, that is the physical lust. This is the, let's say, the lowest place that you can be, stuck in the Adamah, stuck in the desires of the lust of earth, of the physical part. But still, the dream says, the ladder is there. You need to do the first step. And when you do the first step, וראשו מגיע השמיימה. The head is in heaven. So nobody has to lose hope. And we, Baruch Hashem, we believe in God. And we don't look at the darkness as light. We understand what darkness is and what the light is. And the only way to do this is another episode that happens in our Parsha, when 2 minutes before we're going out of Egypt, before Makat Bechorot that takes us out, God tells everybody to take a lamb, a seh, a keves, and to sacrifice it. This is Korban Pesach. And it's written there that each home has to take this lamb, and if there is not enough, velakach mishcheno hakorov, he will go to the neighbor that lives near him, and he will be also a part of those who are going to be a part of the sacrifice and eating it together with the other family. And the question is, what does it mean, a neighbor that lives nearby? A neighbor always lives nearby, otherwise it's not a neighbor. But that's exactly the point. We're not talking out of a physical neighbor. We're talking here about a spiritual neighbor, a neighbor that is close to your opinion. And this is why, by the way, that the blood of the Korban Pesach says, "Haya le'ot lachem," it was for those, for us, not for God. God doesn't need to see the blood on the door. It was inside the door, because the symbol of a Jewish home is the inside of the Jewish home, not the outside. Somebody who plays around when shows from outside that is a great tzaddik, but inside everything is rotten, that's not a tzaddik. From the other side, don't be tempted by the outside, and go and look what is really inside. This is the significant, this is the thing that to make the difference between the real darkness and to the real light. This is look inside things and not outside. And then it's written, V'etbateinu etzil, and God saved our homes. What does it mean, our homes? It's not the houses, because we left Egypt. So there is no reason to save the house in Egypt. We are not going to be there. But the meaning is the home, the Jewish home, the idea that is what is holding Am Yisrael together. So when we look at it from this point of view, Boel Paro, don't be afraid. It doesn't matter where we are and in what situation we are. God is always with us. We have a job. We have a job to see the light and make the difference between the light and the dark, that we will not fall in the darkness plague. And also, we have to help our brothers to see the real light and understand what is darkness. And this only has to come from the inside to outside. The outside is important only if it's got the inside, because otherwise that's not a Jewish home, and this is not what's going to save us. So now, when we are waiting, Bezrat Hashem, to the Geula Shlema, let us build our Jewish home in the best way we can, understanding that the inside is what is important, and this will reflect to the outside, also to our brothers. And together, Boel Paro, God with us, will help us to come to the Geula Shlema B'mera B'yameinu. Amen.